Hello, and welcome to Week 1, Unit 6 of the Open SAP course, Touch IoT with SAP Leonardo. My name is Vernon Turner, and I am Senior Vice President of Enterprise Systems at IDC. And I would like to spend some time with you sharing our research findings from our Global IoT Decision Makers Survey across 4,500 business leaders in 25 countries. In addition, we sat down with many businesses and listened to their stories on how they approached an IoT deployment and used it to change their business. In several cases, IoT was the enabler to transform their business from being a product company selling products to a services-led company that truly listens to their customers in real time. So everyone is talking about the Internet of Things. I am sure that if I could ask each of you watching me today, what does IoT mean to you? We might never get the same answer, and that's all right. IoT means so many things that it's very hard to define. But what we do know is that it's becoming a part of every line of business and every part of our society. In many cases, it is invisible or not too clear. So we tend to think more about its hype factor rather than its reality stage. But I can assure you, it is here, and it is already making some very important changes. The numbers are staggering. By 2020, we think that IoT will account for over $1.3 trillion of global IT spending across every industry that you can think of. In 2020, we predict that about 30 billion devices will be connected to our private and public networks. By 2025, this number rockets to 80 billion devices. Let me put that into some perspective. In 2025, in just 1 minute, over 150,000 IoT intelligent devices will go live, somewhere on the factory floor, on our farm, in our homes, in our cars, in our hospitals, and even on us as we wear dozens of sensors. And with these devices comes lots of data being generated. In 2025, we forecast that the digital universe will create over 160 zettabytes of data. That's a lot of data. And it's a lot of zeros. 10 to the power of 21. Put it another way, if a gigabyte could equal the volume of a normal cup of water, then the Great Wall of China would equal the volume of 1 zettabyte. So we're creating data equal to the size of 160 Great Walls of China. So now that we've figured out that the IoT is important to all IoT professionals, how do we know who is ready to absorb all this newfound content? How do you know who's ready for IoT? Well, it is big and complicated. It is being talked up, and the hype is rife. There is plenty of justified frustration out there in the business world. But there are some leaders who are doing a great job taking advantage of the new information from IoT to feed it into emerging business models. So how do you know who is ready for IoT? One way to identify who is ready at implementing IoT is to measure their IoT velocity. Yes, IoT velocity, the speed by which we measure IoT industry adoption. For each of the past 5 years, we've run a global IoT decision makers survey. This year, we asked 4,500 IT and lines of businesses if they are investing and starting yesterday, today, in 12 months' time, or still waiting. We convert their answers into their velocity score. First of all, we measured geographic or regional IoT velocity. It gave us a great starting place to see which countries were up and running with IoT projects. Our models show that both the United States and Australia were in a class of their own. The majority of the European countries, plus Japan, Korea, and China, were in a close second tier, while Brazil was significantly further down the scale. We think that the US and Australia demonstrated their ability to build a robust IT infrastructure, embrace a willingness to try to transform their businesses using IoT data, and in the process gain competitive advantages. We then applied the same approach to industries. Here we wanted to understand which industries have the most IoT velocity. Intuitively, all the market data would suggest that manufacturing was moving along at a good pace. So it was great to see the confirmation that it, along with financial services and retail, led the charge. enough to suggest that the private sector is generally moving faster than the public sector, in this case, healthcare, government, and utilities. So now that we have an idea of where and which industries are the movers and shakers in IoT, let's shift our focus onto understanding how IoT is changing business models. One of the key changes in IoT-based companies is their shift from building a product catalog to creating and selling services on top of those products. In other words, they are doubling down on the as-a-service phenomenon. One train of thought at IDC is that traditional value chains are no longer relevant. They solely focused on products. However, making the shift to a services-centric value model opens up the business to value agility. Here, businesses can react quickly to customer needs because they have deliberately put their customers in the center of their strategy rather than be at the end of the value chain. Taking this one step further, in a fully implemented IoT environment, we see a new and emerging business value model. Here we see that businesses work within complex ecosystems where many partners share and deliver functionality knitted into a value network. Here, companies react and respond to customer changes and needs very quickly because of both internal and external organization transparency. In fact, they have undergone a digital transformation. Let's now look and see all of this in action. Over the past year, we have interviewed almost 100 companies that had good IoT velocity to see if there were any lessons learned. More importantly, we wanted to find out what their IoT business models looked like. Interestingly, we found companies fell into two business model types. For the sake of differentiating the models, we called them IoT Business Model 1.0 and IoT Business Model 2.0. But just because we label a company in Model 1.0 doesn't mean that it's less valuable than Model 2.0. It just means it fell into this bucket. Let's take a few moments to look at the IoT Business Model 1.0. Many customers fell into this model. Simply put, they had a need to connect devices to a network and create a very simple business outcome. Architecturally, they aggregated their IoT devices onto an IoT gateway, connected to it in a cloud environment, and ran rudimentary analytics. Simple. One of the IoT customers that we met that implemented the 1.0 model was Havells, an Indian company that makes household consumer devices from ceiling fans to irons, etc. They are very well known locally. Their CIO, Sachin Gupta, simply wanted an asset track and trace solution. His company wanted to enable everything that they sold by connecting their household devices through a MAC address running over a cloud so they knew where their sales eventually ended up. Sachin wasn't alone in his deployments. In this situation, we found several repeatable practices. These included: 1. They got past the proof of concept quickly and inexpensively. 2. They are still in learning mode of what the IoT data could do for them, but their IoT solutions are still in standalone deployments. They are not agents of digital transformation. 3. Because of the simplicity of both their IoT infrastructure and use case, they don't have a huge need for systems integration, services, and mainstream analytics. 4. Interestingly, because they heavily invest in infrastructure support, their customers' perception that network and hardware vendors are leaders in IoT and don't rank software and analytics vendors very high. Let's now move from a fairly straightforward IoT business model to one that increases the business value of IoT outcomes. Let's take a look at the IoT Business Model 2.0. Here, the reference architecture that we have drawn just looks more complicated. Now you can see that as well as the common elements of the edge, IoT gateways, platforms, analytics, and cloud, we now pull in a couple of very critical components. We link the IoT workflow to the company's back-end office systems. They're lifeblood, often called their ERP systems. However, today we take that one step further and make those ERP systems into intelligent ERP systems, or IERP. These living and breathing databases are continually updated by IoT business outcomes from the analytics engines and external data sources. By the way, the external data sources play a really important part of this business model. This model has the ability to ingest outside information from almost any source and combine it with the riches from the iERP systems. This circle of business outcomes is now fed back to the IoT devices. After all, they are intelligent too and have the ability to do things like change the speed of a factory line, communicate to a smart city program, traffic management, route supplies and logistics based on weather patterns, modify insurance plans based on recent driver behaviors. All of these are very high-value business outcomes. However, as you can see, this business model is built on a complex ecosystem delivering through a value network managed by the strategically important IoT gateways and platforms. And not surprisingly, SAP is one of the companies at the heart of the IoT Business Model 2.0. You'll learn more about that specifically in upcoming units. Someone who's excelled in the IoT Business Model 2.0 is Pitney Bowes, the nearly 100-year-old iconic small and medium business supplier of metered stamps. Here was a company with analog devices that didn't have much real-time engagement with its customers and was on the verge of being disrupted by the internet. However, it found an IoT company that enabled over 1 million postage meters to be connected to the cloud and its information directly connected to its ERP systems. Why don't I let Mark Shearer, Pitney Bowes' EVP and President of Global SMB Solutions, describe the solution?
My name is Mark Shearer, and I'm President of the SMB business at Pitney Bowes, and we create mailing and shipping solutions for the SMB marketplace. The business case for the SmartLink IoT solution really has several dimensions. We're trying to transform our client experience and move our clients to be able to interact with us digitally. And we are transforming all of our business processes so clients can do things like look at their invoices, pay their bills, order additional supplies, or actually interact with our products through a single digital portal. We are reducing our cost of operations, increasing our revenues, and most importantly, I think we're dramatically improving the client experience and client satisfaction. I think the toughest challenge was moving to a digital culture, and for 95 years, our postage meter hardware was the center point of our value proposition. The SaaS platform is really the foundation of our future offerings, and we use smart appliances as part of the architecture. The real center point is our SaaS client environment. The opportunity to transform every single part of your business is just huge. In our case, we re-engineered all of our ERP systems at the same moment as designing the IoT solution for our clients. So we literally have been able to digitize every one of our client interaction types and really make it much easier for clients to deal with us.
This business model can be characterized by the fact that there are numerous places where significant digital business outcomes were created. There were many repeatable best practices in this model that included the following. A, knowing that as-a-service operating model was an essential prerequisite to satisfy customer needs. B, IoT applications are cloud platform applications. C, significant increase in systems integration and services opportunities exist. D, speed of delivery, almost all real-time, is a critical differentiator. E, software and analytics vendors are the perceived leaders over hardware and network vendors as the business value shifts away from pure play infrastructure to digital business services. F, these are digital companies. Isn't it really cool? IoT and digital transformation actually go hand in hand. All right. As we round out this session, let me pose the question if we see any new potential opportunities that spin off the IoT business models. Let me introduce a concept of IoT business outcomes gravity. We see highly connected moving objects, including things like cars, trains, and ships, and humans as being the center of IoT ecosystems that attract or draw IoT business outcome to them. We call this IoT gravity, even though there may be a two-way flow of outcomes. From here, we see that the relevance of the IoT gateway and IoT platforms take on a very new role. They become IoT brokers. These brokers may become stand-up business units or spin-offs that direct and control the flow of IoT outcomes to communities of users or industries. They might even sell IoT outcomes and as such could eventually develop very sophisticated IoT derivatives and IoT arbitrage markets. All sounds like the beginning of a new financial services market based on IoT data. How cool is that? By the way, we think this may be at least 5 years away. Let's just get more and more 1.0 and 2.0 business models in place and make everyone digital. To bring this all together, I have 3 messages for you. 1, this is a very fragmented market with lots of differing maturity curves for businesses. If you're a business decision maker or developer, how do you know where to start? Look for IoT velocity as that indicator. It will save you time and money. 2, look carefully at the IoT systems that are highly instrumented. These systems have IoT gravity. They will attract IoT data from adjacent sources, and from here, very high-value business outcomes will be generated. At this point on the maturity curve, you have created a digital business. 3, finally, the financial services is a good proxy for the IoT opportunities. Each part of an IoT workflow can be treated as a fiduciary transaction. At each stage, a secure interaction between 2 parties, it can be machine to machine or human, has to take place. When you're designing an IoT solution, think of speed, the complexity, the value, and the risk of every transaction, and in doing so, you will create a secure and highly scalable digital outcome. And that concludes this session on IoT and the future of businesses. Thanks for joining.